In 1936, in the city of Aomori, Japan, a man named Yoshie Shiratori was wrongfully imprisoned. He was forced to confess to a crime he did not commit. The prosecution was pushing for the death penalty, and every night the guards brutally tortured him. The suffering became unbearable, and Shiratori decided he had to escape. Escaping from Aomori prison was nearly impossible, but Shiratori had nothing left to lose. One morning at 6 o'clock, he began his attempt. He knew there was a 15-minute window between the guard shifts, a routine he had studied for months. As soon as the guards left, he started working. Using a metal wire from the bathroom bucket, Shiratori painstakingly tried to pick the lock of his cell. His hands were numb from the cold, but after several minutes, he succeeded. He opened his cell door, but that was only the first of many doors he had to get through. He moved quickly, opening door after door. With only minutes before the guards returned, Shiratori managed to leave the prison building. But even outside, freedom was not guaranteed. The entire prison was surrounded by a large security perimeter with alarms that could catch him immediately if triggered. At 6:15, when the guards made their rounds, they looked inside Shiratori's cell and were shocked to find only a piece of wood carefully disguised under his blanket. No one realized he had escaped until the next day. Just 3 days after his escape, Shiratori was caught trying to steal equipment from a hospital. He was returned to prison and, because of his escape attempt, sentenced to life imprisonment. This meant he would never see his wife and daughter again. All the months of planning his escape ended in just 3 days of freedom. Despite this, Shiratori became known as the escape magician, and his story didn't end there. In 1942, during World War II, he was transferred to Akita prison, where conditions were even harsher. The guards treated him worse than before, hoping to make an example of him and discourage any further escape attempts. They forced him to do heavy labor, slept him on the freezing floor without a mattress, and put him in solitary confinement for long periods. His cell was specially designed, small, with a high ceiling, copper-lined walls, so smooth that he couldn't even hang on to them to rest, and no sunlight except a tiny window in the ceiling. Despite all this, one guard named Kobayashi showed Shiratori kindness and never hit him. Kobayashi occasionally checked on his condition, which gave Shiratori hope and the strength to survive. On the night of June 15th, as a fierce thunderstorm raged over Akita prison, something unimaginable happened. Yoshie Shiratori, the prisoner guards considered completely unescapable, vanished without a trace. When the guards made their routine midnight check, all they found in his solitary cell were the heavy iron handcuffs that had once chained his wrists. The cell was empty. Shiratori had somehow slipped away into the darkness. The shock among the guards was immediate and overwhelming. How could a man kept under constant watch inside a specially designed cell built to crush any hope of escape simply disappear? His cell had walls lined with smooth copper plates to prevent climbing, a ceiling far too high to reach, and the only window was a tiny opening near the top, securely framed and thought to be impossible to remove. On top of all that, Shiratori's hands had been locked behind his back in cuffs weighing nearly 20 kilograms, and his legs were shackled to limit movement. Yet, Shiratori was no ordinary prisoner. According to later theories, he had patiently observed every detail of his cell over countless sleepless nights. Over weeks, even months, he carefully picked the locks on his cuffs, using a thin metal wire he had managed to obtain, just as he had done years earlier in Aomori prison. Each night, at precisely the moment he knew the guards were least alert, he would remove the cuffs and silently begin his work. He discovered that the window frame's wooden border had begun to rot from years of moisture. Using his bare hands and what little strength he had left, Shiratori would climb the copper walls designed to be too slippery to hold, and each time push and loosen the rotting wood bit by bit. It was a painfully slow process, climbing in the freezing dark, knowing that a single slip or sound could mean death. But Shiratori had learned to move like a shadow. Crucially, he chose the night of the violent storm to make his final move. The roar of the wind and pounding rain masked any noise as he finally pulled the weakened frame free. The storm became his ally, cloaking his escape from the guards' ears. By the time the guards discovered his absence, Yoshie Shiratori was already gone, leaving behind nothing but empty cuffs and an unsolved mystery that would haunt Akita prison for years to come. 3 months later, on September 18th, Shiratori appeared at Kobayashi's home, battered and in need of help. He told Kobayashi that he planned to surrender to the police, but wanted to expose the corruption and cruelty within Japan's prison system. He wanted justice not just for himself, but for all prisoners. Despite his plan, the police soon recaptured him, and he was sentenced to an additional 3 years on top of his life sentence. His request to transfer to a warmer prison was denied, and he was sent to the infamous Abashiri prison in Hokkaido, the northernmost part of Japan, known as the toughest prison from which no one had ever escaped. The brutal cold in Abashiri was unbearable. Temperatures dropped below freezing inside the cells. Shiratori was forced to wear summer clothes, was chained with heavy handcuffs weighing 20 kilograms, and had his legs shackled to prevent movement. Despite the torture, Shiratori never lost his spirit. He promised the guards he would escape again, and he did. After months of slowly rusting the handcuffs and window frame using salt from his food, he finally freed himself. He carefully climbed the walls, removed the wooden frame covering the window, and escaped during a storm to muffle the sounds. Shiratori escaped 4 times in total. Each time he was caught, sent back, and subjected to harsher punishment. His legendary escapes made him a hero to many. In 1948, worn down and exhausted in his 40s, Shiratori was finally caught and surrendered peacefully. The Japanese justice system was changing, and his story touched many. He was sentenced to 20 years instead of death, and for the first time, guards treated him with respect. After 14 years, in 1961, Shiratori was released, free for the first time in decades. He returned to Aomori, where his story began, and reunited with his daughter, the only remaining family. Because of his extraordinary escapes and resilience, Yoshie Shiratori became a legend in Japan, a man who fought injustice, survived unimaginable hardship, and never gave up hope.